It's 5:30. I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is Resolution 16-95, and there are three parts to that. The first is appropriating an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of 153 compensated absences fund in the amount of $1,300.
Good evening.
Hi there.
I was here 2 weeks ago and had a payout for the Assistant Tax Administrator who is retiring November 30th, and this is a payout for an AFSCME employee that we are promoting into the assistant's position.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Buck. Second by Mr. Costa. Any questions of the committee? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll
Thank
go on
you.
to full council. Thank you. Okay. The second item. There is hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 958 Fire Damage Fund in the amount of $24,240. Mr. Paul.
Hi. Our fire insurance fund every year is kept in my office. It's kind of fluid. It's hard to predict how many fires we're going to have. We need to appropriate this money. I have two demolitions at 38 and 40 Parker Avenue. We had two fires, and I need that appropriation. That will be the exact amount paid out for those two, and we've already got the insurance funds that have been deposited with the city.
Thank you.
Motion.
Motion by Cost.
Second.
Second by Bub. Any questions from the committee? Anything from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, the third part of 16-95, there's hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 209 Hotel Motel Fund in the amount of $35,000.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We took a look at the bed tax balance, and the good news is it's up a little bit, which is going to allow us to honor a few more requests this year. So the Bed Tax Committee met. We had a general discussion about it, and we decided to appropriate $35,000.
Motion.
Thank you. Motion by Bub, second by Johnson. Mr. Rath, you have a question?
Yeah, dispersing it to whom?
Some of it's going to go to the Works, some of it's going to go to the Midland, some of it's going to go to the YMCA, and then we're going to spend some money on some long-term city planning.
Any other questions or concerns from the committee? From the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 16-97. There is hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of 272 license plate permissive tax fund in the amount of $400,000. Ms. Moorhead.
Yes, ma'am. This is, as it says, appropriate $400,000 that is actually on deposit over at with the Licking County. This is our share that Licking County has collected, and these funds will go towards the resurfacing of North 21st Street next year. I'm expecting an invoice from ODOT within the next month and a half, so I wanted to go ahead and get it on the books this year, as opposed to waiting through the budget items at the beginning of next year. So,
Motion.
Motion by Bub.
Second.
Second by Johnson. Any questions or concerns from the committee? From the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, the Finance Committee is over. Next is Service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Floyd, and sitting in for Mark Fraser is Curtis Johnson. We're here to discuss changes to the zoning code. Mr. Morad, you have the floor.
Thank you. As I said in my memo, we've had the zoning code in place since 2009, and these are some minor changes that we would like to see made to the code. As we've administered it over the years, there's just some little tweaks here that we see that could help streamline some things. I sent this to all of you ahead of time. I can either go through each item individually with a quick little synopsis on it, or I can let you read it and think about it. I think the point is that when we all come to agreement on what these changes should look like, then we'll have the law director draw up a piece of legislation, and these will all be included in that legislation. But zoning changes, wording changes typically take a few iterations to get through, so I wanted to get it before you the first time here for some comments and any questions that go along with it. So I can go through each item kind of quickly, or tell me how you prefer to
proceed.
Prefer to proceed.
Brian, are there any specific items here that you think may be an item of contention?
No. Why don't I just take a couple minutes and just run through them real quickly?
Sure.
Okay. The first item in Article 7, discontinuance of use of a non-conforming use. First of all, the original code had it listed for if it was non-conforming and discontinued for a period of 24 consecutive months. Unfortunately, we have no way to track 24 consecutive months on a use. So if people don't call us and tell us we're stopping, selling burgers at this place or something like that. So the 24 months is sort of irrelevant, and there's no way that we could really track that. So we want to remove that and just make the approval of continuing a non-conforming use back to the board as the rest of the verbiage stated. So basically it takes the 24-month time period out of it. In Article 86, lot area and setbacks, this is to kind of make more consistent this is for accessory structures, and basically it's to make the setbacks off of an alley on both the rear and the side of the lot equal. Previously, along the rear of the lot, it was a 5-foot setback, and along the side of the lot it was a 10-foot setback. So basically we're just lining these back up so that it's equal. On a 40-foot lot, 40-foot wide lot, you would have had to have the accessory structure, so a shed or a garage in the back. If you had an alley running next to it, you would have to have that alley or have that shed 10 foot in from the lot, basically pretty much in the center of the lot, as opposed to shading towards the side of the lot.
Good.
And of course, we've got a lot of older, narrow lots in the city. Same idea with Article 88 for fences, basically to just align those with more or less the same regulations for the accessory structures, with a setback off the lot, and then providing additional setback at the intersection of the alleys so that you can, have a clear path to see past. If any of you have driven through alleys, when you come to an intersection, it's very annoying and dangerous when there's a building or a structure right on the corner that you can't see by. You have to creep out past it. So this will help take care of that issue. Article 115, public and private swimming pools. This is more or less gives a waiver to those inflatable or metal pools, small pools that are in backyard areas that are temporary in nature. they're all over the place, and we have not actively pursued any zoning regulations on those, just because they can be blown up this afternoon and taken down tomorrow. So this just clarifies that in the code. Yeah.
Does that include like a metal temporary pool? Not necessarily an in-ground pool, but an above-ground pool that's...
It's an above-ground pool, but they're the smaller pools.
Metal frame with the soft side,
Yeah.
and if your hard metal side, that would be more of a permanent.
Are we specifying between the two? And I'll tell you, I have some concerns over this.
Okay. Well, we'd like to
Be
hear
it
it.
temporary in nature or not, there's still a liability issue, and if you have a 4-foot pool, even though it's temporary, the risks are inherent, whether it's temporary or not. I'm concerned about a safety issue and a liability issue.
If you want to make some suggestions on what we should, maybe what the guideline would be, we'd be glad to do some research on those. So.
Mr. Claus, you have a comment?
Yeah, would it be possible, thank you, would it be possible to look at like a size restriction of some sort as far as diameter, or, and they're talking about greater than 24 inches, but I mean, there's such a range of size that those come in.
I'm not saying I wouldn't support this, but I'm saying I have some concerns, voicing my concerns, and some thought needs to go to that, and maybe some discussion.
I don't have any problem with that. I'd like to know where you set the boundary, though. What you think is appropriate. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'd love to hear some input on that.
Now,
I didn't know you did.
the last sentence of the part that's outlined there says, however, temporary pools are still subject to the requirements of the property maintenance code. I assume that means that they can't have steps.
Secured.
So that I remember one in a corner of a lot, and it was easy for somebody to get up and in that pool, and but that's a property maintenance code issue.
Yeah, we have to have.
Hold on a second, please. Hold on a second, please. Hold on a second. Not trying to be rude or anything, but if you're going to have somebody comment, I'd appreciate it if they come up.
Yeah, why don't I have Nate?
And state their name.
Nate Strauss, our zoning inspector. So Nate's administering this on a
Just so everybody
daily
knows
basis.
who everybody is.
Yep.
And Autumn is never going to be able to hear you from sitting over there to put your comments in the minutes, and I'm sure they're valuable.
So, under the property maintenance code, there's got to be clean sanitary condition, ladder secured when not in use, that sort of thing. It just seems that as readily available as these are, you can go to Walmart, more times than not, people don't know that they're supposed to do this, and just one of those situations where it seems like if we were to actively enforce, you'd probably have a lot of people in council chambers, just due to the sheer number of them.
Did you have anything further?
No, I
Kind of
just
stuff.
wanted to, I was concerned the safety thing, and that's in the property maintenance code, so I'm good.
Okay. You got a comment, question? Incidentally, for the members of the audience, this is a discussion. We have no legislation on to vote on today. So these issues are for information only, and we probably will not go backwards in this. So if there's an issue that's brought up and you have a question tonight now, raise your hand, let me know. I'll be glad to recognize you and allow you to ask questions as well as we go, if that's all right with you, Ms. Moorhead.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I think we'll move on to the next section. Temporary signs.
Yes. So the highlighted areas that you see under Article 135 there regarding the temporary signage is, we had this discussion several months ago about temporary signs at different locations, and this was some of the verbiage that was suggested by the law director. And at that point, it was put into a piece of legislation that I think Director Rhodes spoke to you and said that we would address at a later time by changes in the code, so that this wording that's been inserted into here is from that piece of legislation from earlier in the year. So any comments or questions on that, you can let us know about that.
Okay.
But I think that's probably the most item up for the most debate, as we had several discussions about that in the past. Later on in Article 135.8, variable message signs, you'll see a yellow highlighted section. Basically, this is the regulations that the Board of Zoning Appeals.
You skipped 135.7. Was there a reason for that? I promised everybody we wouldn't go back, so I didn't want to have to break my promise.
Should be the signs for hanging signs in the public right of way. This is
Available number of signs per lot. 135.7.
for the menu boards.
Well, there's some changes to the districts. I assume that has to do with our new zoning code, and then some information about menu boards.
Well, basically, it changes the regulation to allow 2 menu boards as opposed to 1 menu board in the current code.
Okay.
Like McDonald's drive-through over off of West Church Street.
A lot of these drive-throughs are doing dual lanes now as opposed to single lanes, so this will make those acceptable.
Right.
Further on in 135.7, that wasn't in there.
The hanging sign.
Hanging sign. The wording is to be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, is what it should say actually, as opposed to the service director. Board felt that they still ought to have the say on any of signs, especially in the downtown district, that are hanging over the sidewalks. They're technically in the right-of-way, but the board felt that they should have the say on those.
Okay.
135.8 is the variable message signs. Again, as I started to say, this is kind of the conditions that Board of Zoning Appeals puts on the variable message signs, because these conditions were not listed in the original code. We decided that these ought to be made a part of the code, and then every time the board acts on one of these, they won't have to say with the following conditions. It's just inherently part of the code. And then 135.10, the off-premises sign location map was a map. It's basically a city map that was developed back when the code was established. So number 2 there says off-premises signs shall only be located on lots identified on the off-premises sign map. Well, over time things change and new roadways come into play, and sometimes lots are combined, and all those sort of things happen. So the map has not been updated, and would like to provide you with a map with the current areas where the off-premises signs can be located, but with an updated mapping, the updated roadways and the updated lots and things like that underneath of it. Two areas that come to mind right away. The old map does not show relocated Waterworks Road on it, as we did in 2010. And then the old map also does not show the new Thornwood connector that'll soon be open here in the next week or two on it. And if council has a feeling that either of those roads should have off-premises signs on those, then those could be added to the map. They are not added on there currently, though.
Just a
Yes, sir.
quick definition or layman's term for an off-premise sign.
A billboard.
Thank you.
Anything else, Nate?
Just come through some of these little.
Oh, yeah, okay. Back in item 135.11, just a small clarification on the post sign, allow those to be mounted on a pole also. And then, yes, back in Article 135.11, also the promotional sign section. Again, this is a portion that came out of that piece of legislation that the law director drafted up earlier in the year. So,
All right. Give us a minute to read this, because it's lengthy. Any sign that promotes not-for-profit community activity, event, or opportunity, local for the zoning inspector prior to a therefore shall be required for all conditions are met. Signs erected not more than 10 calendar days prior to the occurrence. Signs removed not more than 1 day following the occurrence. Sign conforms to the requirements of the code regarding setback. The sign shall be erected in the premises which will be advertised in interest to only. The sign shall not contain any question. Okay, so I have a question here. I think you'll understand my question once I ask it. It says the sign is erected not more than 10 calendar days prior to the occurrence of the event advertised therein. Okay with that? The sign is removed no later than 1 calendar day following the occurrence of the event. Okay with that? What happens if the nonprofit organization has an event every week? And it happens to be the same event? According to this, it appears to be that they can put a sign up there and leave it in there forever.
good question.
Just trying to find the loopholes before they're falling. So maybe that's something you want to think about. And you can understand why I'm asking that question.
Newark Catholic Bingo?
Pardon?
Newark Catholic Bingo sign? Church on West Main Street that has the breakfast just about every Saturday. Granville Road Church, breakfast.
All right.
Okay. Our tenant or representative sign his location, existence. All right, did you have a question? Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
I guess what I'd like to see is I'd like to come back in 2 weeks, and if there's any comments or questions, you can get them to us in the next week or so, and come back in 2 weeks and have another discussion and kind of finalize this, and then get it put into a piece of legislation and get it before council after council, and then planning commission, and then back to council after that as the zoning changes go.
Sounds good.
So, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, both of you guys. And does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns over this issue before I adjourn? All right, seeing none. That is the last issue for the Service Committee, and we will stand as adjourned. Up next will be Ways and Means.
Okay, I will call the Ways and Means Committee to order. President is Ryan Bob. Curtis Johnson sitting in for Doug Marmee and myself. We have ordinance 1646, amending section 890.051 of chapter 890 of the codified ordinances for the city of Newark, Ohio, regarding the levying and collection of municipal income taxes. Miss Jobs, I'm sorry.
Good evening. The last time I brought the tax ordinance to you, it was 70 pages long, so I will promise you it won't be that painful tonight. With the passage of House Bill 5 in 2015, the state mandated that our ordinance cannot be in conflict with the ORC 718, which is the state's tax ordinance for municipal tax. So in June of this year, in the budget bill, the General Assembly made 3 changes to ORC 718, so we are required to make those 3 same changes in our ordinance. And it's all regarding the due dates of withholding being remitted by employers. There are only 3 changes under 890.051B1A. The state, when they passed House Bill 5, changed the quarterly withholding due date to the 15th day of the month following the end of the quarter. With the passage of the budget bill, the state has pushed that back to what it originally was, so that all quarterly withholding is now due the last day of the month following the calendar quarter. So instead of having to pay their withholding tax on October 15th, they now pay it on October 31st. So that's the first change. When House Bill 5 was passed, I am so glad they fixed this. In House Bill 5, if the employer was required to remit their taxes monthly or send them to us semi-monthly, according to the original bill, the payments had to be received in my office prior to the due date or on the due date. With semi-monthly, that only gave them 3 days. So if your withholding was through September 15th, you had until September 18th to get that payment in our office. If they didn't do that, it was subject to the new state's tax penalty, which is 50% of the withholding due. So they have now changed that on both monthly and semi-monthly in paragraphs B and C, so that it is now postmarked within 3 days or 15 days of the due date. And those are the only changes for now.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bob.
I'll second.
And yes, second. Thank you. Are there any questions? Are there any questions from the audience? All those in favor of passing on to full council? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes 3.
Thank you.
Ryan, you made a motion, and then you seconded. Capital improvement is next.
I'll call the Capital Improvements Committee to order. Members in attendance are Hall, Valletta, Rath, Frazier, Johnson, and we're considering Resolution 1696, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this is we received a check from the Licking County Park District for $30,247. It's their share of resurfacing to the bike path. The area that we're going to resurface is from from Goose Pond to Sharon Valley Road and a few in that general area. The agreement that was made with the Licking County Park District when the levy was passed is that they would participate in the repaving of our bike paths. So what we've done now is we began to analyze different segments of the bike path. We measure them, we get together with the engineer, we get an estimate on what it costs to repave. They send us a check, we ask you to be nice enough to appropriate it, and then the engineer will put it out with his bid for spring paving, and the bike path will be repaved.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So do we have a date on when we're trying to start this next year?
It'd be with the next paving package when they start in the spring.
I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Roletta, second by Howard.
I thought you said we have a motion.
No. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair? Is this a one-time deal, or is it
No,
going to do this next year?
that's an excellent question. We hope to get funding from them every year. What we did is we broke the bike path into segments, we numbered them, and we're going
Segment by segment?
segment by segment, and we'll measure it up so the dollars will vary. and that was part of their commitment to us, and they're doing that as well as some other things. We're working on some common signage, some ways to cut. They've also brought their equipment in to cut some of the bike trails back when brush is starting to grow over them. So we look to have continually good bike trails.
Good. Any further questions? Any questions from the audience? Well, then we shall vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That concludes our committee, and with that, we are adjourned.